The champagne glass slipped from Seo Joon-hyuk's hand and shattered against the marble floor so loudly that the entire ballroom froze. Music cut mid-note. Conversations died in their throats. 200 guests turned toward the altar at once. Joon-hyuk stood there in his custom Italian tuxedo, his hands still extended in the air, fingers trembling as if he hadn't realized yet that the glass was gone. The shards glittered at his feet like evidence of a crime. Beside him, his bride-to-be, Evelyn Hartwell, stiffened. Her manicured hand tightened around his arm, nails digging in through the fabric. "Joon-hyuk," she whispered through her flawless smile, teeth clenched. "Pull yourself together." But he wasn't looking at her. He was staring at the back of the room. A woman in a black server's uniform had dropped to her knees to gather the broken glass. Her skin was deep brown, luminous against the white marble floor. Her hair was pulled back neatly, no jewelry, no drama. Just quiet focus. Then she looked up. For half a second, their eyes met, and something inside Joon-hyuk cracked open. The room disappeared. The wedding vanished. The pressure in his chest exploded into something raw and terrifying, like recognition. Like she could see straight through the wealth, the suit, the performance, and into the man suffocating underneath. Her eyes widened slightly, as if she felt it too. Then she looked away. She rose quickly, placed the glass on a tray, and disappeared through the service door. Sound rushed back all at once. The string quartet fumbled back into place. Someone laughed nervously. Evelyn's mother hissed something sharp under her breath in the front row. "Are we proceeding?" the officiant asked, voice strained. Joon-hyuk swallowed. "Yes," he heard himself say, though his heart was still racing somewhere far behind. But the image of the woman wouldn't leave his mind. "Seo Joon-hyuk," the officiant continued, "do you take Evelyn Hartwell to be your lawfully wedded wife?" Silence. Every camera lifted. Evelyn's grip tightened painfully. "Say it," she muttered. "Now." Joon-hyuk opened his mouth. Nothing came out. His vision blurred. Not with tears, but with memories crashing over him all at once. His father announcing the engagement at a board dinner like it was a signed contract. Evelyn agreeing without hesitation because it aligned with her family's political ambitions. The endless photo shoots, the interviews, the rehearsed smiles. No one had ever asked him what he wanted. His voice cracked. Gasps rippled through the crowd. "I need a moment," Joon-hyuk said. Evelyn's head snapped toward him. "What?" "I need air," he said louder, stepping back from the altar. "I need to think." His father rose from the front row, face hard. "You will finish this ceremony." But Joon-hyuk was already moving. He walked down the aisle, past frozen guests, past whispering executives, past his mother's stunned expression. He ignored the chaos erupting behind him and pushed through the service door at the back of the ballroom. The hallway beyond was quiet, utilitarian. Staff scattered as he passed, murmurs following in his wake. He turned a corner and entered the kitchen. Stainless steel, steam, silence. And there she was. The waitress stood near a prep table, tray in hand, eyes widening as she recognized him. "You," Joon-hyuk said, breathless. "Who are you?" Her posture stiffened immediately. "Sir, you shouldn't be back here." "I don't care," he said, stepping closer. "What's your name?" She hesitated. "Amara." "Amara," he repeated, the name grounding him. "Why did you look at me like that?" "I didn't," she said quickly. "Yes, you did," he pressed. "You looked at me like you understood something." She glanced toward the door, then back at him. Her voice dropped. "I saw someone trapped." The words hit him like a punch. "You don't know me," he whispered. "I know that look," Amara said quietly. "I wore it once. When I was engaged to someone I was supposed to marry. Someone perfect on paper." "What did you do?" he asked. "I walked away," she said. "Lost everything my family promised me, but I gained myself." The kitchen door slammed open. Evelyn stormed in, white gown flaring behind her, eyes blazing. "What the hell is going on?" Joon-hyuk turned slowly. For the first time, he felt calm. "I'm thinking," he said. "You're humiliating me," she snapped. "Get back out there, now." "Why?" he asked. "So we can lie for the rest of our lives?" Her smile dropped. This was never about love. "I know," he said. "That's why I can't do it." Evelyn followed his gaze to Amara and scoffed. Is this about her? A waitress? Don't, Joon-hyuk said sharply. This is about me choosing honesty. You're throwing everything away, Evelyn hissed. My family will destroy you. Maybe, he said, but I'll finally be free. Evelyn stared at him, then laughed bitterly. Fine, but you tell them. She stormed out. Joon-hyuk exhaled, chest heaving. I'm sorry you had to see that, he told Amara. Are you okay? She asked softly. I just ended my life, he said. And somehow, I can breathe. The door opened again. His father stepped in. What have you done? He demanded. I chose myself, Joon-hyuk said. Then you are no longer my son. Okay, Joon-hyuk replied. The door closed. Silence. Amara looked at him, eyes searching. Do you have somewhere to go? He shook his head. She hesitated, then said, I have a couch. And just like that, everything changed. Amara didn't speak again until they were outside, the night air cold enough to bite through fabric. The estate's backlot was lit by harsh security lights, the kind that made everything look like a crime scene. In the distance, the ballroom still pulsed with chaos, muffled shouting, hurried footsteps, the faint shriek of a woman who had just watched her future explode. Joon-hyuk stood on the curb in his wedding tuxedo, staring at the parking lot like it might offer answers. Amara pressed her car key fob. Her old sedan blinked and chirped. You're really coming? She asked, voice low, like she still couldn't believe what she was doing. He let out a shaky breath. If I stay here, they'll drag me back inside. He stopped, jaw clenching. I can't go back in there. Amara studied him, then nodded once. Then get in. He hesitated, then moved quickly, sliding into the passenger seat. The interior smelled like vanilla air freshener and something warm. Coffee, maybe. It was nothing like his world. No polished leather, no silent luxury, no tinted windows. And for the first time that night, his shoulders dropped. Amara drove with both hands tight on the wheel, eyes fixed ahead. She didn't ask him questions. She didn't try to comfort him with lies. She just kept moving forward, like momentum was the only thing keeping them both from panicking. Behind them, the Rosemore Grand Estate faded into the darkness. Then Joon-hyuk's phone buzzed. Once, twice, 3 times. He glanced down. Father, mother, executive assistant, Evelyn, Evelyn's mother, unknown number again. Amara's eyes flicked briefly to his screen. You're not going to answer? He swallowed. His hand hovered over the phone like it weighed 1,000 pounds. If I answer, he said hoarsely, I'll hear his voice, and I'll fold. Then don't, she said simply. The calm in her tone hit him harder than shouting ever could. Like she believed he could actually do this. Like she believed he was capable of not obeying. He silenced the phone and set it face down. 10 seconds later, it buzzed again, angry and relentless, like a heartbeat that wouldn't stop. They drove through streets that weren't lined with gated mansions, through neighborhoods where people sat on stoops and laughed, where neon signs flickered above cheap restaurants, where the world didn't care who he was. Amara finally spoke when they stopped at a red light. One rule, she said. He turned toward her. Anything. You don't touch me, she said, eyes forward. Not because I think you're dangerous, because you're in shock. You're not thinking straight. And I won't be something you mistake for a life raft. His throat tightened. You think I'm using you? I think you're desperate, she corrected. Desperate men grab whatever feels warm in the cold. And then when they're safe again, they let go. Joon-hyuk stared at her profile. The streetlight washed over her face, catching the quiet strength in her expression. I won't let go, he said before he could stop himself. Amara's jaw tightened. You don't get to promise that yet. The light turned green. She drove on. He sat back, heart pounding. He'd spent his whole life surrounded by people who lied prettily to keep their position. No one had ever talked to him like that, like he was just a man with a choice, not a name with obligations. When they reached her building, it was the last place anyone would ever imagine the heir of CO Group stepping into. A cracked brick apartment complex with a buzzing door that only worked if you punched it twice. The hallway smelled like laundry detergent and someone's dinner. Amara climbed the stairs without complaint. Joon-hyuk followed, gripping the railing, his tuxedo sleeves brushing chipped paint. She unlocked her door, hesitated, then opened it. Warm light spilled out. It was small, modest, lived in. A couch with a faded throw blanket, a narrow kitchen table with mismatched chairs, a stack of notebooks, a laptop, pens scattered like evidence of someone building dreams in stolen hours. Joon-hyuk stepped inside and froze. It wasn't fancy, but it felt real. Amara closed the door behind them and exhaled like she'd been holding her breath the whole drive. "Bathroom's there," she said, pointing. "I have spare clothes. They'll be too big or too small, I don't know. But you can't sleep in that tux." He looked down at himself like he'd forgotten what he was wearing. "Right." She handed him a plain gray sweatshirt and sweatpants, both soft from overwashing. "Thank you," he said quietly. Amara's eyes softened for a fraction of a second, then hardened again. "You're welcome, and don't say things that make this feel like more than it is." He nodded, though he didn't know how to stop his chest from aching. In the bathroom, he stared into the mirror. The man staring back didn't look like a billionaire groom. He looked like someone who'd been punched awake. When he stepped back out, hair damp, tux folded awkwardly in his hands, Amara had poured 2 glasses of water and set them on the table like she was trying to create normalcy out of disaster. She sat, arms crossed, watching him carefully. "So," she said, "now what?" Joon-hyuk sank onto the edge of the couch like his legs had finally remembered exhaustion. "I don't know," he admitted. "I've never not known what's next." Amara tilted her head. "Because someone always told you." He let out a laugh that sounded more like pain. "Yes." His phone buzzed again. He didn't look at it. Then it buzzed again, and again, and again, until it was almost comical how relentless it was. Amara stood, walked over, and plucked it off the couch cushion like it was an annoying insect. She glanced at the screen. Her expression shifted. "What?" Joon-hyuk asked, chest tight. "It's not just your family," she said slowly. She turned the phone toward him. A notification from a trending news app. Live. "Billionaire heir abandons wedding. Mystery woman involved?" There was a blurry photo under it, taken from somewhere inside the service corridor. The angle was sneaky, like someone had been hiding. And in the photo, Joon-hyuk's shoulder and Amara's face were both visible. Amara's stomach dropped. "No." Joon-hyuk's blood ran cold. "They already have this?" Amara's voice went sharp. "How does someone even get that shot? That hallway was staff only." Joon-hyuk's mind raced. Security. Staff. Someone paid. His phone buzzed again, but this time it wasn't a call. A message. Unknown number. "You walked out with the help. You think you can hide her?" Another message came instantly after. "Check your door tomorrow. We like to see how brave you are in the daylight." Amara's face went pale. Joon-hyuk sat up fast. "Give me that." He read it, his jaw clenched so hard it ached. Amara swallowed. "This is what I meant. Your world doesn't just punish you. It punishes whoever is near you." Joon-hyuk looked at her, eyes burning. "Then we won't let them." Amara shook her head, panic and anger mixing. "You don't get it. I'm not protected. I don't have lawyers on speed dial. I don't have a mansion with guards." "You have me," he said, voice fierce. She laughed once, bitter. "You don't even have you right now. Your father just took everything." He flinched because she was right. He hadn't checked his accounts yet. He hadn't checked if his card still worked. He reached into his pocket and pulled out his wallet. His black card, his limitless card, stared back at him like a joke. He stood quickly. "There's an ATM downstairs. I'll check." Amara grabbed his sleeve. Her touch was brief, instinctive. Then she pulled back like she'd burned herself. "Don't," she said. "Don't go outside like that. Not after that message." He held her gaze. "Then what do I do?" Amara swallowed hard. "We lock the door. We stay quiet. We get through tonight and tomorrow. You figure out what kind of man you are without all the power." Joon-hyuk's chest rose and fell fast. Outside, somewhere down the street, a car alarm chirped. Footsteps echoed. A laugh. Normal life continuing while theirs teetered on a cliff. Amara reached for the deadbolt and clicked it shut. Then she added the chain. Joon-hyuk watched, something heavy settling in his gut. This was the cost. Not just losing money, losing comfort. It was danger. Real danger. He turned to her. "I didn't mean to drag you into this." Amara's eyes flicked up. dark and steady. "You didn't drag me," she said quietly. "You walked into my world the moment you came into that kitchen." She paused, voice softer now, almost reluctant. "And now we both have to survive it." Joon-hyuk stared at the locked door like it might explode. His phone buzzed one more time. This time, it was a voicemail transcription from his father. "You have until sunrise to return. If you do not, you are no longer a CEO, and you will learn what it means to have nothing." Joon-hyuk's throat tightened. He looked at Amara. She didn't look away. Slowly, he lowered himself back onto the couch, hands shaking. Not from fear, but from the strange, terrifying thrill of being free. "Sunrise," he whispered. Amara nodded. "Sunrise." And in the silence that followed, the first real battle of his life began. Joon-hyuk didn't sleep. He lay on Amara's couch staring at the dim ceiling, listening to every sound the building made. The creak of pipes, the distant elevator groan, footsteps in the hall that could have belonged to anyone. Each time a car passed outside, his heartbeat jumped like it was trained to fear. On the other side of the room, Amara sat at the small kitchen table with her laptop open, but she wasn't typing. She was watching the door like it might grow teeth. "You should sleep," Joon-hyuk said quietly, voice rough. Amara didn't look away from the deadbolt. "You should stop talking like this is a normal night." He swallowed. "You're right." Silence pressed in. Then his phone buzzed again. He flinched before he could stop himself. It was humiliating. How fast fear rewired him when he didn't have guards and gates between him and the world. Amara's eyes flicked to the sound. "Don't answer." "I wasn't going to," he lied. She finally turned toward him, gaze sharp. "You're still trying to be polite to people who threaten me. That has to stop." He sat up, elbows on knees. "I don't know how to do this." "Do what?" "Be unprotected." He let out a humorless laugh. "My whole life, consequences were something that happened to other people. Not because I was evil, because the system around me made sure I never felt the edges." Amara's expression didn't soften. "And now you're at the edge." "Yes." She nodded once, like she respected honesty more than comfort. "Good. Then you'll understand why I'm not impressed by your last name." Joon-hyuk stared at her in the low light. "You really aren't." "No," she said. "I'm impressed by what you do when it costs you." His throat tightened. "Then watch." A sharp knock slammed into the door. Both of them froze. Not a polite knock. Not a neighbor's, "Sorry, wrong unit." It was hard, deliberate, like someone knew exactly how much sound it would make in a quiet hallway. Amara stood so fast her chair scraped loudly across the floor. Joon-hyuk was on his feet in an instant, heart hammering. "Stay behind me." Amara's eyes flashed. "Don't do that." "Do what?" "Act like you're protecting me to feel useful." She grabbed her phone. "If something happens, I'm calling the police." Another knock. Louder. A man's voice filtered through the door. "Delivery." Amara and Joon-hyuk stared at each other. "It's past midnight," Amara whispered. "No one delivers now." Joon-hyuk stepped closer to the door, keeping his voice controlled. "Who is it?" The voice changed slightly, like the man was smiling. "Package for Amara Carter." Amara's blood ran cold. She hadn't told Joon-hyuk her last name. She barely told anyone where she lived. She mouthed, "No." Joon-hyuk leaned toward the peephole and peered through. In the hallway stood a man in a delivery vest, holding a small box. But what made Joon-hyuk's stomach drop wasn't the vest. It was the fact that the man wasn't alone. Two more figures lingered near the stairwell, half in shadow. Not delivery workers, not neighbors. Their posture was wrong. Too still, too ready. Joon-hyuk backed away from the door slowly. "It's not real," he whispered. Amara's breathing became shallow. "They found me already." Another knock slammed. "Open up," the man said, voice still falsely pleasant. "We don't want to bother your neighbors." Amara's hand shook as she gripped her phone. "I'm calling the police." "Do it," Joon-hyuk said. She dialed with trembling fingers. The man outside chuckled. "Police? For a package? Don't be dramatic." Amara forced her voice steady as the line rang. "Hello, yes, I need..." The call dropped. Amara stared at her phone like it had betrayed her. "What?" "My service just..." Joon-hyuk's gaze snapped upward. "They're blocking it." Another knock, then the metallic scrape of something against the lock. Amara's face went pale. They're trying to... Joon-hyuk moved fast, grabbing a heavy cast iron pan from the kitchen counter. Get behind me, now. Stop ordering me. Amara, he snapped, and the urgency in his voice made her obey without even meaning to. She stepped behind him, clutching her phone like a useless weapon. The lock rattled, the chain quivered. Whoever was outside wasn't trying to be subtle anymore. Joon-hyuk's mind raced. He'd been trained in boardrooms and negotiations, not this. But fear sharpened something in him. Instinct, maybe. The same instinct that made him walk away from the altar. He looked around the apartment, one window in the living room, fire escape outside. Amara, he whispered urgently, not taking his eyes off the door. When I say go, you run to the window. What? She hissed. I'm not leaving you. Go, he repeated, voice low and absolute. If they get inside, they'll use you to drag me back. Or worse, I won't let that happen. Amara's throat bobbed. This is insane. It's real, he said. Now move. She hesitated, then finally darted toward the window, tugging it open with shaking hands. The lock gave a sudden, violent jolt. Then the chain snapped. The door swung inward. The delivery man stepped into the apartment like he belonged there, the box still in his hands. He was smiling. Two others followed. Joon-hyuk raised the pan, stance wide, breathing hard. The man's eyes swept the room, then landed on Joon-hyuk's tuxedo pants, the borrowed sweatshirt, the wildness in his gaze. Well, well, he said, look at you, playing poor. Get out, Joon-hyuk growled. The man laughed. Relax. Mr. Seo only wants you to come home. You're making him look bad. Joon-hyuk's blood burned. My father sent you? Let's call it a family cleanup, the man said, then flicked his gaze toward the window. And you brought company. Amara was halfway out the window, onto the fire escape, eyes wide. One of the men moved toward her. Joon-hyuk lunged. The pan swung with all his strength. Metal connected with bone. The man cried out and stumbled backward, clutching his face. The delivery man's smile vanished. Oh, so you're going to make this difficult? Joon-hyuk's hands shook, adrenaline flooding him. If you touch her, I'll... You'll what? The man sneered. Hit me again? You're still wearing silk under that sweatshirt, Prince. You don't have it in you. Amara's voice snapped like a whip from the window. Joon-hyuk? He glanced toward her. She was holding something in her hand. Pepper spray, lifted like a tiny lifeline. She must have snatched it from her purse. Her eyes locked onto his, fierce. Duck! Joon-hyuk dropped instinctively. A sharp hiss filled the air. The delivery man screamed as the spray hit his face. He staggered back, coughing, swearing, wiping at his eyes. The other man cursed and stumbled away from the window, trying to shield his face. Amara didn't stop. She leaned forward, spraying again, fearless despite the terror shaking her body. Get out, she shouted, voice raw. Get out of my home! Joon-hyuk stared at her for a split second, at the way she wasn't hiding, wasn't shrinking, wasn't waiting for him to save her. She was saving herself. And him. The men retreated, choking and cursing, backing into the hallway. The delivery man pointed blindly, voice thick with rage. This isn't over! Joon-hyuk slammed the door the moment they crossed the threshold, throwing the deadbolt shut even though the chain was broken, hands moving with frantic speed. Amara stumbled back inside from the fire escape, breathing hard. For a second, they just stood there, both trembling, both alive. Then Joon-hyuk let out a shaky breath that almost sounded like laughter. They sent people, he whispered. Amara's eyes glistened with fury. They threatened me. They broke into my home. Over a wedding? Joon-hyuk's face hardened. It wasn't the wedding, Amara swallowed. Then what is it? He stepped closer, voice low, something dangerous and determined surfacing under the fear. It's control. If I leave, the world sees my father can't command his own son. If I stay free, everyone else might realize they can be free too. Amara stared at him, chest heaving. So what now? Joon-hyuk looked at the broken chain hanging from the door, then at her, then at the pepper spray still clutched in her hand like a badge. He spoke slowly, deliberately. Now, he said, I stop running. Amara's eyes narrowed. What does that mean? It means I don't just survive tonight, he said. I fight back tomorrow. She let out a short, disbelieving laugh. With what? Your frozen credit cards? Your canceled phone? With the one thing my father can't buy, Joon-hyuk replied, voice steady. And what's that? He held her gaze, and the honesty in his eyes made the air feel tight. Someone who tells me the truth, he said. Someone brave enough to stand up in her own home and say no. Amara's throat tightened. Don't say things like that. Why? He asked softly. Because it makes it hard? Her eyes flashed, and for a moment she looked like she might cry or yell or both. Instead, she whispered, because when you look at me like that, I forget you're the kind of man who can ruin my life just by being near me. Joon-hyuk took a slow step closer, not touching, just close enough that she could feel his presence. I already ruined your night, he said, but I swear to you, Amara, I won't ruin your life. Her breath trembled. Outside, in the hallway, footsteps retreated. Voices faded, but the danger didn't. Amara's shoulders finally sagged, exhaustion crashing in. We can't stay here, she whispered. If they found me once, they'll come back, with more. Joon-hyuk nodded, eyes sharp now, awake in a way he'd never been in any board meeting. Then we move, he said. Before sunrise. And in the quiet after the storm, Amara realized something terrifying. He wasn't the only one who'd crossed a line tonight. She had too. They left before dawn. Amara stuffed a backpack with the bare essentials. Documents, laptop, charger, the little envelope of cash she kept hidden behind a loose floorboard. Joon-hyuk folded his tuxedo one last time, then stopped and shoved it deep into the trash chute on the stairwell like he was discarding a skin. The sky was still bruised purple when they stepped into the street. The city felt watchful, quiet in the way that made every shadow feel intentional. Where are we going? Amara asked, voice tight. Somewhere my father doesn't own, Joon-hyuk said. Somewhere I can think. They took a bus, his first time in years, then another, then walked the last mile to a small motel near the river, the kind with flickering signage and a front desk clerk who didn't ask questions. Joon-hyuk paid in cash. When the clerk slid the key across the counter, Amara felt the weight of it like a decision she couldn't undo. Inside the room, the air smelled faintly of bleach and old carpet. One bed, one chair, a bathroom with a rattling fan. Amara dropped the backpack and leaned against the door, closing her eyes. Her hands were still shaking. You don't have to stay, Joon-hyuk said quietly. I'll leave if you want. She opened her eyes and looked at him. Really looked. The polished edges were gone. In their place was a man stripped to bone, terrified and resolute at the same time. I'm not running from you, she said. I'm running from them. He nodded, accepting the boundary like a promise. They sat on opposite sides of the bed, exhaustion settling in. The silence wasn't awkward. It was heavy, charged. My father will come for me, Joon-hyuk said finally. Not with apologies, with leverage. Amara exhaled. Then we need a plan. I've never planned without a safety net, he admitted. She tilted her head. Then this will be your first honest plan. His phone buzzed. 1% battery left. A voicemail transcript popped up before the screen died. You have until tonight to come home. If you don't, I will make an example of you. And of her. Amara's jaw tightened. He said my name? He didn't have to, Joon-hyuk said. I won't let him touch you. She met his eyes. You can't promise protection you don't have. I can promise choice, he said. I won't choose him over you. Ever. Her breath caught. Don't make this about me. It's about who I am, he said, and who I refuse to be. A knock sounded at the door. Both of them froze. Joon-hyuk stood slowly, heart pounding. He motioned Amara behind him and cracked the door an inch. A woman stood there in a cheap blazer, holding a folder. No smile, no pretense. Mr. Seo, she said, I'm with your father's legal team. Joon-hyuk opened the door wider. You're early. She glanced past him, eyes flicking to Amara, then back. This won't take long. Sign these and this all ends quietly. He took the folder. The papers were neat, clinical, a return agreement, public reconciliation, a statement calling the wedding interruption a medical episode, a clause barring him from contact with Amara Carter under penalty of injunction. Amara stepped forward. You don't get to erase me. The lawyer's eyes hardened. Ms. Carter, this is not about you. It always is, Amara said, when powerful men don't get their way. Joon-hyuk closed the folder and handed it back. No. The lawyer blinked. Excuse me? No, he repeated. I'm not signing anything. You understand the consequences? Yes, he said. Do you? She stared at him for a long moment, then turned sharply and left without another word. The door clicked shut. Amara sagged against the wall. They'll escalate. So will I, Joon-hyuk said. He pulled out a cheap burner phone he'd bought on the way. I have a friend, not from my father's circle. He helped me once when I pushed back on a deal. He hates bullies. Call him, Amara said. The call was brief, heated, then relieved. He'll meet us tonight, Joon-hyuk said. He knows how to protect people who don't want to be owned. Amara studied him, something shifting behind her eyes. You're really doing this. Yes, she swallowed. Then there's something you need to know. He waited. My last engagement, she said, voice steady but thin, ended when his family threatened my mother's job. I left so she wouldn't suffer. I won't do that again. Joon-hyuk stepped closer, not touching. We protect your mother first. Her eyes filled. You don't even know her. I know you, he said, and that's enough. That afternoon, news broke again. A press conference scheduled, the SEO group denying all rumors, a promise of a clarifying statement. Amara watched the screen with a hollow feeling. They're going to bury you. He shook his head. They're going to try. When night fell, Joon-hyuk's friend arrived, Park Min-seok, rumpled jacket, sharp eyes, a man who looked like he'd fought his way out of rooms like this before. Your father's furious, Min-seok said, which means you're doing something right. They talked for hours about shell companies and stolen contracts, about employees who'd been threatened into silence, about the one thing the CO empire feared more than scandal, sunlight. Amara listened, then spoke. If you do this, they'll call you reckless, ungrateful, a traitor. Joon-hyuk looked at her. Will you think that? She shook her head. I'll think you're finally honest. Near midnight, exhaustion pressed in again. The motel hummed softly. Amara stood by the window, watching the river reflect the city lights. Joon-hyuk joined her, close enough to feel the warmth of her arm. I won't touch you, he said quietly. She smiled sadly. I know. They stood there, the distance between them a choice, not a wall. Outside, sirens wailed somewhere far away. Inside, two people breathed through the fear and the promise of what came next. And when Amara finally turned to him, eyes steady and brave, Joon-hyuk understood something with painful clarity. Whatever happened after this, whatever he lost, whatever he built, he would never be the man who walked away from himself again. Morning came with rain. It wasn't dramatic rain, no thunder, no lightning, just a steady, soaking downpour that turned the motel parking lot into a sheet of rippling gray. Joon-hyuk stood at the window, watching water race down the glass, his reflection faint and unfamiliar. Behind him, Amara sat on the edge of the bed, tying her shoes with careful, deliberate movements. This is the part where things get worse, she said quietly. He nodded. That's usually how it goes before they get better. She huffed a short laugh. You sound like you've done this before. I haven't, he admitted, but I've watched my father do it to others. That sobered them both. They left the motel separately, 10 minutes apart, exactly as Min-seok had instructed. No walking together, no obvious connection. Just two people disappearing into the city like they'd never shared a night hiding from men with fake delivery vests. Joon-hyuk took a rideshare to a co-working space Min-seok controlled under a shell name. Amara caught a bus in the opposite direction. Hood up, head down, every instinct screaming to keep moving. Her phone buzzed as she stepped off. Mom. She stopped walking. Hey, Amara said, forcing her voice to sound normal. Her mother's voice was tight. Why are there men asking about you at the cafe? Amara's stomach dropped. What kind of men? Expensive suits, polite smiles, not the kind you ignore. Amara closed her eyes. Mom, listen to me. I need you to pack a bag, just the essentials. A pause, then softly. What did you get yourself into, Amara? I chose not to be quiet, she said. I chose not to disappear. Another pause. Then resolve hardened her mother's voice. I'll be ready in an hour. Amara swallowed the lump in her throat. I'm sorry. I didn't raise you to be small, her mother said. Come get me. When Amara hung up, her hands were shaking, but her spine was straight. Across the city, Joon-hyuk sat at a long table surrounded by people who had once worked under his father and left with scars instead of severance packages. Engineers, accountants, a former PR director who still flinched when she spoke his father's name. Min-seok paced. Once you start this, there's no halfway. I know, Joon-hyuk said. That's why I waited my whole life not to. They laid it out piece by piece. Documents, emails, recorded threats, a network built on fear and silence. You leak this, Min-seok said, and your father will come for blood. Joon-hyuk didn't hesitate. Then let him. By afternoon, the city buzzed. Anonymous tips flooded journalists' inboxes. Former employees began speaking, quietly at first, then louder as they realized they weren't alone. SEO group stock dipped, then slid. By evening, Amara was sitting in the back seat of Min-seok's car with her mother beside her, fingers laced together tightly. He's really doing this, her mother murmured. Amara nodded. Yes? Is he worth it? Her mother asked gently. Amara thought of the pans swinging in her apartment, of him standing between her and men who didn't see, her as human, of the way he'd listened when she said no. Yes, she said, but not because he's rich, because he chose right when it hurt. They arrived at a safe house just as the press conference went live. Joon-hyuk stood alone at the podium. No tuxedo, no handlers, just a man in a simple jacket, hands visible, voice steady. I walked away from my wedding because I refused to live a lie, he said. But what I walked into was the truth about the company that raised me. Gasps, murmurs, camera shutters. My father taught me power, Joon-hyuk continued. But he never taught me accountability. Today, I choose both. Phones exploded. The SEO group issued a denial within minutes. Then another former executive stepped forward. Then another. By nightfall, the denial collapsed under the weight of too many voices. At the safe house, Amara watched the broadcast in silence. Her mother squeezed her hand. He's burning bridges, Amara whispered. He's lighting the way. Later, when the city finally exhaled, Joon-hyuk arrived, exhausted, soaked, eyes burning with something between grief and triumph. They stood facing each other in the quiet living room. You didn't have to stay, he said. She crossed the room in 2 steps and stopped inches from him. I chose to, she replied. For a long moment, neither moved. Then Amara spoke, voice low but fierce. If we do this, if we choose each other, it won't be because you saved me. I know, Joon-hyuk said, and not because I fixed you. I know. It will be because we stood up separately, she finished, and decided to stand together. Joon-hyuk's breath hitched. Slowly, carefully, he lifted a hand, not touching, just asking. Amara closed the distance herself. Their lips met. Brief, electric, real. No cameras, no witnesses, just choice. And in that quiet moment, with everything on the line, both of them knew there was no going back, only forward. The fallout didn't come like a wave. It came like fire. By morning, Joon-hyuk's face was everywhere. Screens, newspapers, feeds scrolling endlessly. Analysts argued. Former allies defected. Commentators called him brave, reckless, suicidal, heroic, stupid. Sometimes all in the same sentence. Amara watched it unfold from the safe house kitchen, coffee going cold in her hands. He hasn't slept, her mother said softly, nodding toward the closed bedroom door. I know, Amara replied. Neither have I. When Joon-hyuk finally emerged, his eyes were red-rimmed, his jaw tight. He looked thinner somehow, as if every truth he'd told had carved something out of him. They froze the remaining accounts, he said without preamble, everything tied to the family name, even the shell ones. Min-seok leaned back against the counter. That was always coming. I know, Joon-hyuk said. What I didn't expect was this. He tossed his phone onto the table. A headline glared up at them. SEO, heir accused of manipulating staff woman. Sources question motives. Amara's stomach dropped. Her name hadn't been printed yet, but her face, blurred, half caught, was there. They're turning you into a weapon, Min-seok said grimly. If they make this about a scandal instead of corruption, they muddy the waters. Amara set the mug down hard. So now I'm the distraction. Joon-hyuk's voice went sharp. No, You're the reason they're scared. She looked at him. That's not comfort. It's truth, he replied. They can't stand that you exist outside their control. Amara folded her arms, breathing through the surge of anger. Then we don't hide. We don't let them make me disappear. Min-seok raised an eyebrow. You sure? Yes, she said. I'm done being quiet. Joon-hyuk turned toward her slowly. If you step forward, they will tear you apart. She met his gaze. Then they'll have to do it where everyone can see. There was a beat of silence. Then Min-seok nodded once. All right, we do it clean. That afternoon, Amara sat across from a journalist with kind eyes and a recorder on the table. No lawyers hovering, no script. Why did you let him leave with you? The journalist asked. Amara didn't hesitate. I didn't let him do anything. He chose to leave. I chose not to lie. Were you involved romantically at the time? No, Amara said. We spoke. We told each other the truth. That was enough. And now? Amara paused, then said, now we're choosing each other with our eyes open. The article ran within hours. It didn't paint her as a seductress or a victim. It painted her as a person. The comments were brutal, but not unanimous. For every insult, there was a stranger saying, she looks brave. For every threat, a quiet message. Thank you for saying no. That night, Amara sat alone on the balcony, city lights flickering below. Joon-hyuk joined her, hands shoved into his pockets. I never asked you if you were afraid, he said. She smiled faintly. I am, he nodded. Me too. They stood in silence for a moment. Why didn't you go back? She asked softly. When he gave you the ultimatum. Joon-hyuk swallowed. Because if I had, I would have spent the rest of my life wondering what kind of man I was when it mattered. She turned toward him. And what kind of man are you now? He met her eyes. One who's starting over. The knock came just after midnight. Min-seok answered it, tension coiling instantly. Two police officers stood outside, faces neutral. SEO Joon-hyuk? One asked. Yes, Joon-hyuk said, stepping forward. You're under investigation for corporate misconduct. We need you to come with us. Amara's breath caught. Is he being arrested? The officer shook. His head. Not yet, but this will be formal. Joon-hyuk turned to Amara. I'll call. She nodded, fighting the urge to grab his arm. I'll be here. As he followed the officers down the hall, he looked back once. She was still standing there, waiting. The hours crawled. When Joon-hyuk returned near dawn, exhaustion lined his face. But something else was there too. Relief. They questioned me, he said. They also questioned my father? Amara's eyes widened. And for the first time, he said quietly, he didn't control the room. Min-seok grinned. That's what sunlight does. Later that day, they packed again. Not to run, but to move forward. A smaller place, anonymous, affordable. As they loaded boxes, Amara laughed suddenly, surprising herself. What? Joon-hyuk asked. I just realized, she said, wiping her hands on her jeans. This is the first time I've moved somewhere without running from something. He smiled. Me too. They collapsed onto the floor when it was done, backs against the wall, surrounded by mismatched furniture and hope. I don't know how this ends, Amara said quietly. I don't either, Joon-hyuk replied. But I know how it starts. She looked at him. With honesty, he said, and courage. She reached for his hand, not dramatic, not rushed, just real. Outside, the city kept moving. Inside, two people who had lost almost everything were finally building something that belonged to them. And for the first time since the shattered glass, the future didn't feel like a threat. It felt like a promise.